Hi everyone, David here from Mortgage Choice. We're just going into today's RBA update. As everyone's seen, RBA has increased by 0.25%, and that brings the cash rate now to 4.35. As every release that we see from the RBA, I'm going to go through what their statement was, what this means for you, and talk a little bit about what I'm seeing in the market. Now, again, they're pointing the finger at everything going on over in the Middle East and the cost of fuel, the cost of oil, which then translates to fuel and thousands of other products. And so they're trying to curb the inflation in those items via increasing home loan repayments, increasing interest rates, and therefore we have less money to spend on those items, which they're hoping will bring down the inflation, the level of inflation that we're seeing. What I thought was really interesting to see is that the interest rate right now, cash rate, 4.35%, is very similar to where we were back in 2012, 2013. So I'm going to go through a little bit of a comparison of the market in 2012 and the market now at the end of the video. Now, again, like I do every time, you can see that every $100,000 that you borrow increases your repayments by about $16 a month. And so for a $500,000 loan, we're now looking at a repayment of $3,000 a month. So that's a big jump. But interest rates that we're likely going to see at the moment are 6.15%, whereas the average variable rate before was about 5.9. Interestingly, a few hours before this rate rise, ING actually sent out an announcement they were going to be reducing their basic variable loan rates, some by 25 basis points, some by 15 basis points. There's a bit of a change depending on the loan to value ratio and the product itself. 15 basis points to 10 basis points difference. But I thought it was interesting that they kind of preempted this increase, and they've made some adjustments to their products that still keep them relevant and will still bring some business through the door. I thought that was very interesting. Now, we're likely going to see a few more rate rises. This is the third one we've seen in a row, and we're likely going to see a couple more coming our way. We're expecting, the ASX, I should say, is expecting another 0.5% before the end of the year. And then we're likely going to see rates start to plateau and slowly come down through 2027. That is obviously going to depend on what happens in the Middle East as well. Now, first home buyers, a few things that I'm seeing right now. I mentioned last time that units and apartments are becoming more popular. That's still the case. They're more affordable, and so first home buyers are just looking to get into the market and purchasing what they can. Off market, I thought was a little interesting. They're speaking with agents about properties that are upcoming. They're not quite listed yet, but they're coming up soon. And they're trying to get in that way, trying to get a deal before they have to compete with anyone else in the market. And like I say as well, every single time, pre-approvals, I cannot stress the importance of a pre-approval enough. It will lock in your borrowing capacity, and that will stay put for 90 days. So if we see another rate rise, if we see two more rate rises, within that 90-day period, that does not impact your borrowing capacity. So it's really important if your capacity is quite tight. What you're looking to buy is what you can afford now, but a few more rate rises might impact that ability. Getting a pre-approval in place is just so important. Very similar for upgraders. If you're looking to sell and buy, you don't want the potential reduction in sale price due to declining markets to impact your purchase price. If you have certain needs for the next property, an extra bedroom because you've got more kids now, or in a certain area for a school zone, your purchase price might need to stay put, and we need to make sure that your capacity will still suit that purchase price. Bridging options are always a great way to get around any fluctuating sale price, any fluctuating interest rates. They're just really expensive, bridging options. So when we do look at bridging, it's very much a convenience factor rather than a financially beneficial factor. It's always skewed that way. But the last point that I'm seeing with upgrade is renovations. I'm having a lot of conversations with people now that are looking to either extend or simply complete those little renovations around the house that they haven't done so far, rather than move. So rather than go through the process of selling and buying again, rather than paying agent fees to sell and stamp duty to buy, they're just upgrading their existing property and kind of watering the grass to make it greener rather than jumping the fence. So I thought that was really interesting. Now, investors, I'm seeing a bit of an increase with their preference for fixed rates. Now, fixed rates, 4 or 5 weeks ago, were sitting at high five, low sixes, and now they're sitting mid sixes. So it's interesting that investors have still been comfortable taking on that bit of a hit. We're paying more upfront in the expectation that interest rates are going to continue to rise, and they'll save money in the long run over the next 2 3 years that they're fixed for. So very much just looking to lock in the repayments. And when they find a tenant, when they have a tenant, they know exactly what their cash flow looks like. They're not going to have to worry about, you know, changing rates, changing cash flow issues, and having to sort that out every single month. I'm also seeing an increase in interstate purchases. We saw this for a long time, people purchasing up in Queensland and WA for a few years too. And I'm starting to see that kind of become a bit more popular again. Over the last 6 months, we've seen more in Victoria, but yeah, now it's kind of leaning more towards Queensland and Perth in particular again. So that was interesting as well. Now, refinancing. As you'd probably expect, a lot of people that are refinancing are just looking to improve their cash flow. They're happy to extend the loan term. They're happy to consolidate debts, or even uh, you know merge everything into the one spot over a 30-year term rather than keeping a car loan over 5 years, that sort of thing. They're very much coming to me on the basis of what can I do to increase my cash flow. And once we get through this difficult period, I'll focus on catching up later. So that's very much the focus of refinancing that I'm seeing these days. But they're also looking for a little bit of extra cash for renovations. Now, it's not necessarily big renovations like a new deck or landscaping or a driveway, but it's little things like they needed to repair certain areas of the house, or the dishwasher's gone, things like that. Little bits and pieces that normally they would save up for and pay for as you can. They're just accessing a little bit of equity to repair or renovate. So it's going to suit their needs for a little bit longer. Very similar to upgrading. Now, the comparison that I mentioned between 2012 and 2026, I'll start talking about it rather than talking because you can read it already. But you can see a huge discrepancy between the increase in median wage and the increase in median house price over the last 14 years. Now, in all fairness, the income and the house price, that is at the end of 2025, December 2025. So yes, it says 2026, but it's as close to it as I can get. And this is all from the Bureau of Statistics, which I think my source is covered by my video here. $9,500 increase in median wages, a double in the median house price. And you can see that those repayments per month have increased by about $2,400, just over $2,400. Now, what's interesting about that is that the increase in the wages means that you're getting about $790 per month before taxes. You're getting an extra $790 per month before taxes, but your repayments have increased by $2,400 a month. It doesn't add up. So if you're looking to buy the same type of property now that you would have back in 2012, it's just unrealistic, not going to work. And you can see obviously the deposit has increased as well. Now, I was very conservative with these numbers. The median price in 2012 was actually 350 to 450. Not everybody needs a 20% deposit, but this gives you an idea, even on a conservative view. From a conservative view, it doesn't make sense. Like, we're not able to keep up with the market in terms of where our wages are going. So I thought it was really, really interesting. Now, one thing I want to add is that everyone is struggling. I've got it there at the top. A few people that I've spoken with, some high income earners, some low income earners, everybody seems to be in the same boat where they're dipping into either savings or an emergency fund to try and cover the cost of living, to try and cover the cost of their mortgage. So there does seem to be a huge struggle going around, regardless of where they sit in terms of their finances. So I thought that was really, really interesting that everybody's in the same boat. And I thought it was really important for me to convey that, because a lot of people might feel that they're doing something wrong or that they need to cut back on certain areas. even the really responsible ones are struggling. So what what I want to pass on, as I said, what I think is really important is that if you are struggling, if you've done everything you can to keep up with your mandatory costs of living, with your home loan repayments, and if we're going to see some more rate rises coming, there is help. You can give me a call, you can give your bank a call, and there is help available. In terms of the help available for your home loan, sometimes your bank can put you onto an interest only repayment. Sometimes they can pause the repayments altogether. Uh, One thing you need to keep in mind, though, is that that does impact your credit report. If we're seeing a a pause or a switch to interest only due to hardship, then that will be on your report for 2 years. And that will impact your ability to refinance in the future. It will impact your ability to obtain credit cards, car loans, any type of credit in the future for those 2 years at least. So before going down that path, give me a call, speak to your bank about different options, and just see what we can do to make sure that everyone is getting through and able to make it to the other side of whatever is going on overseas right now. So that is everything that I've got for today. Thanks as always for watching, and I look forward to speaking soon.